Welcome to the Hire Her podcast by Talent Collective, presenting conversations with inspiring women in talent. And get ready, ladies, because this is the last time you're going to hear a man's voice on this show.
Welcome, everybody, to our latest episode of Hire Her, our podcast by Talent Collective. I'm Natalie Stones, one of the co-founders, and here with me today is Krista, my co-founder. Say hello, hello.
Hi, everybody.
And we are so excited today to bring our guest, Jill Chapman, to the podcast. Jill and I actually have some longtime history of working together previously at Insperity when I had my brief stint living in Houston, Texas. But I was really excited to invite Jill to be on our podcast because Talent Collective's podcast is all about conversations with inspiring women in talent. And Jill, over the years, inspired me so much. She had experience beyond my years. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like kind of your pseudo manager. What did I know? You had so much more experience, but we were kind of like two peas in a pod. We decided to put together LinkedIn Live podcasts together. We worked on projects together. And just built a really great friendship. So I wanted to bring you on and really highlight your story because there's so much cool stuff that you've done over the years. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you, Jill, and have you share a little bit about your background.
Oh, thanks, Nat. And those were such kind words. I appreciate it so much. And we did have a lot of fun together when we were building all those new and different ideas that we had for corporate talent acquisition. So yeah, I'm Jill Chapman. My role now is working with early talent. So the gray hair comes naturally, and it's kind of time in my career to give back, right? And so ushering in this next generation of young professionals into our organization and just into the work world. So work a lot with our interns, both our high school and college interns, and then with people who are possibly making career changes, right? We consider early talent anything 0 to 3 years of experience. So we have a lot of people who maybe stepped out for a little bit and are coming back. And so they kind of qualify for that moniker as well. And I mean, like I said, the gray hair comes naturally. That's because I had a lot of years in talent acquisition. So, you know.
That is a great segue. I actually would love for you to tell the story. When I actually met Jill, she was semi-retired, or I don't remember what you were calling it at that time, but you had already had your recruiting career. You had started an agency. Can you tell us your story about how you kind of got to that point of wanting to do your own thing and having it be acquired and so on?
Right. So, yeah. So, you know, I am not sure that there's anybody who wakes up and says, I want to be in staffing. That's what I want to do. And maybe there's more so now, but back in my time, that wasn't a thing. You just kind of fell into staffing. And so like many others, I fell into staffing, and it was still kind of new and unique at that time. We had gone from using staffing agencies like a replacement for a vacation replacement or something like that, to where it was actually a line item in a lot of budgets, and people were planning, to augment their staffs with folks that would come in a seasonal type situation. So the industry was changing. It was a very heady time for those of us in the industry, and I had an opportunity and I took it, largely because a sorority sister she graduated a year before me. She got into the same company doing the same sort of thing. I was like, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. And then the rest is history. And that was a large international organization. So I was very lucky that I kind of cut my teeth in a strong organization that had a fantastic training program, all the good stuff, right? And with that organization, I was able to work in mergers and acquisitions. And so, it kind of made me think. I started to meet all these people who own smaller agencies and that sort of thing. I was like, that's a possibility at some point in my life. But I always said to self, I was like, self, you ever do something like that, and you sell, you're going to drop the keys on the desk and turn around and walk away. Because I watched as we acquired other firms, the changes, the dynamics, of that was my baby, now it's their baby. And, it's not the same. So fast forward through some experience, and I had an opportunity to purchase an existing firm in my hometown, and did so. And had an awesome experience, but had grown to a size where I was either going to need to take on some additional investors or something was going to have to change because we were just that big, and had an opportunity to sell into another organization, a much larger regional firm, and stayed with the organization. What did I say? I was supposed to drop the keys and turn around and walk away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't do it. But then this opportunity at Insperity came, just based on some friends and relations, because I had been staying in it. And again, that's kind of a weird feeling. And so it was time to do whatever's next. And whatever next was I had no idea, and was presented with an opportunity here at Insperity and never looked back. So it just all kind of mushroomed and into what it is now. And I had an opportunity to bring in the early talent into our organization. It was volunteer at first. So I was working with a team of about 8, and then we got pretty good at it in this volunteer thing, and we see the writing on the wall here at Insperity that is what's next for Insperity. So we made it real and started a work group that's dedicated to early talent.
Are you tired of talent and HR podcasts that sound like corporate training videos? Same. Talentless is the no-fluff show about hiring, leadership, culture, and what's actually going on in the world of work. Talentless is a podcast for recruiters by recruiters. Hosted by Desiree Goldie and Ashley King, they're smart, occasionally salty, and never afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe at talentlesspodcast.com.
Oh my goodness. So neat. Thanks for sharing your story, Jill. I'm going to use a corporate term or phrase that I've been hearing a lot lately. Let's double click into your agency time.
That is so 1924 or not. Oh, I'm so stupid. It's not even 1920. It's 2024.
2024. That was so 1900s. No. So let's double click into your agency time. I think there's a lot of people out there right now, a lot of women in TA or just TA professionals who have been laid off, many times over the last couple of years, and have started their own thing or have always had an agency and are really struggling right now because of the market. So I'd love to hear from you if you did anything during your agency years, something maybe like unconventional that you tried either as a way to lower costs or to increase sales.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're taking me back for a minute because it's been a minute since I was there, but, it's not for the faint of heart, right? It seems easy from the outside, to do something like running an agency, but, there's a lot of ups and downs. So one thing that I would recommend to somebody who's thinking about this is really playing with that idea of doing both temp and perm at the same time, because it seems like when one's up, the other one maybe is a little bit behind. And so it kind of levels everything out, and it makes a whole lot easier, I think, to plan and predict and to keep cash flow kind of running the way that you would like to. So I really encourage that kind of playing both ends against the middle, if you will. But I will say that I tended to work more in the temp side of the business because that was where I had cut my teeth, and then would have people that were doing the direct hire placements for us. But really, the way that I was able to grow my agency, and we did a great job of growing. We're named to all these kind of lists and all this kind of stuff. And, but one of the things was just my involvement in the community. I didn't go out and knock on doors and do a lot of hard sales, right? And sales calls like that. It was a matter of working through this committee, doing volunteering here, being engaged over with this organization, or knowing these people, or taking my SHRM certification or teaching the SHRM certification classes and that sort of thing. And it was a slow roll. I never expected that I was just going to go close something and then, make the deal right away. I had some patience and was able to build up a business just based on relationships. Mm-hmm. And that was what it was all about for me, is making the relationships with those people who could either help me to meet the right people or were the right people altogether. So I would really lean heavily on the relationships that I build in the community, right? And that was probably the secret sauce for all the years that we were together in my staffing agency, was the relationships that we were able to build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you have those relationships, you don't have to sell, like you said, which is, oh my goodness, so wonderful. So congratulations on building a thriving business based on that. That's amazing.
Okay, yeah.
I want to actually triple down. I think that's another
triple clicking now. Are we triple clicking? Yeah. I don't know how that works.
This question we did not prepare you for, but as you were talking about like temp and how to basically diversify your agency, I think so many of our agency members, and many of them actually are founders or solopreneurs, or they're like operating as embedded or fractional. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you've heard of this kind of like new age term. Right. It has some temp-like vibes to it, but it also has like interim consulting elements to it. So I'm really curious about your thoughts on kind of this movement towards, well, at least we're seeing it here in the Bay Area a ton, right? It's like so many layoffs. So we don't necessarily need full-time hires, but maybe there could be a case for a fractional or an embedded employee, whether that's a fractional or embedded recruiter or chief revenue officer, CMO, et cetera. I'm just curious about your thoughts, because a lot of our members who run traditional contingent firms are thinking about, do I offer both? Do I just move completely that way? Do I go retained? What do I do? So if you were in,
heck yeah, I'd be doing it now. Yeah. Because I mean, quite frankly, let's be real. It's a sexy way to describe what we were already doing anyway, right? And so, yeah, heck yeah, I would be offering that, keeping a bench of quality people that I could just move from place to place, and then they come back around if that was the case. It doesn't mean that you're elevating the kind of talent that you're bringing into your organization usually to work in these fractional or temporary or contract or whatever you want to how you want to name the gigs, but absolutely I would buy into that because 100 years ago I read a book by Daniel Pink. It's called Free Agent Nation, and that book is old now, but that was what he was predicting really at the end of the day in that book, was that we would have these really large organizations that would have good people, but that you would just be placing the people in project type gigs, and then moving people around as needed. So I definitely would be all in it. I was always looking for that kind of thing. Like, could I offer, this kind of, DISC certifications and things like that would augment, what we were trying to do on the staffing side. That's the cool thing I think about being an entrepreneur, is once you've broken one plane, it's so much easier to do this and do something else and add another element, another product, another service to what it is that you do. It's just taking that first step and getting involved, right?
Yes.
Welcome to The Human Role, your go-to podcast where HR and payroll collide with innovation. I'm your host, Tiana Neal, and every month I'm diving deep with industry experts and change makers, bringing you real talk insights, practical tips, and fresh takes you won't hear anywhere else. Whether you're a leader, practitioner, or just curious about the latest HR and payroll trends, I've got you covered. Ready to roll with the best? Tune in for fresh perspectives, actionable tips, and the knowledge you need to roll forward with confidence. Subscribe now and let's transform the way you work.
Thanks for letting me go off the cuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, this is going to be our last question here. So I'd love to hear from you. You've been in TA for a long time. If there's maybe a story you can remember, maybe it's a funny story or just a really great candidate story of someone you placed, just something really memorable that comes to your mind.
Yeah, there were so many great placements. I mean, those moments where that you changed somebody's life, and so there's a lot of those. Luckily, a lot of those. Of course, some of the ones that tend to stick out to you are the ones that were maybe less successful for one reason or another, or just something. Because there's no predicting human nature, right? So some of those kind of stories, I can keep you up all night with that. I used to keep an envelope of all the crazy stuff that would happen. And then, and I was like, one day I'm going to write a book. One day I'm going to write a book about all of these episodes that we experienced. But somewhere that folder is somewhere still. And I'm pretty sure that the years may change, but the stories may stay very much the same, right? Of some of the things that people will try. I would like to leave on this note, and I don't know if this is just a word for somebody, but all of a sudden it became very important for me to be able to say this. But I see a lot of recruiting organizations and recruiters, kind of clutching their pearls around this idea of ghosting still. And it happens to us, from time to time. But I want to say that some of that has a little bit to do with how we handle ourselves as staffing and TA professionals, right? If we're not willing to pick up the phone, to talk to the people and to answer their questions, which is our job number one, right? Then I don't know why we're so surprised when something like that might happen. And so I think this is a profession that we're in. We are professionals. And so I think we have to keep that front and center, because I think that some of the ways that we've handled the past is going to predict our future if we don't keep in mind that we are professionals first.
Mm-hmm. I wish I had kept an envelope full of those stories, because I too, and Natalie, worked temp. And so with temp comes a lot. I mean, recruiting in general, there's going to be all those stories, but I think with temp, you get a little more of the crazy and
the reasons people couldn't go to work, or just totally. some of the phone calls that you would get, about why they can or can't be there, what's going on in their lives. But this dates me right now, because I doubt you guys, either of you two, remember this show, but there was a show called Murphy Brown, and she always had a temporary working as her EA or whatever. And usually the first call was like, what was going wrong, why the temp couldn't come into the office. I was like, man, I could just feed that all day long, with reasons why people couldn't come to work.
Definitely. We actually at one point sent out, so one of our employees on my team was a really good sleuth. She just would go find anyone, this person did not show up, and it was this major concern, and she was calling the police department. She was calling hospitals. It was great. We actually had someone go to this person's house for a wellness check. And it was wild times, but very fun. Yeah. Awesome, Jill. Well, I feel like we could talk all day long. We're going to wrap up now, but where can our listeners find you and say hello?
So on all the social media platforms, but probably the most likely is going to be on LinkedIn, and it's Jill Silman Chapman.
All right. Well, thank you again. This conversation has been so fun. We appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your wisdom, and hopefully we'll get to do it again. So to all of our listeners, remember to like and subscribe, and then you can also find this podcast on any of your channels and or YouTube. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you.